Hey everyone, here in Amplify, we are super thankful to have a diverse group of guests with very diverse opinions. Just know that not all of their perspectives align with what we believe at Stories of Anti-Semitism. And with that in mind, enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Amplify with Stories of Anti-Semitism. I'm your host, Jeremy Jacobs, and once again, we're talking about everything at the intersection of Israel, anti-Semitism in the church. And today we're going to talk about community collaboration, interfaith collaboration between Christians and Jews. And we've got three wonderful friends here with us today. Eldad Malka from the IAC, which stands for Israeli American Council. You'll get back to that for us. Miri Kornfeld from StandWithUs, Colorado, and our good friend Dr. Boris Draznin, who's not with an organization per se, but he is one of the best doctors that I know.
Absolutely.
So let's do this. Let's just go around the table here and everybody just talk a little bit about yourself, your organization, and even just why you care so much about being activists in a time like this.
Where do you want to start?
You were ready, so I think you should go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I'm not with any organizations, as you said, just on my own. I've been a student of Jewish history all my life. Published a couple of books on that, working on a couple more. And I believe that knowing Jewish history or disseminating Jewish history among people who are maybe not as familiar with that is the key to better understanding of our shared roots, of our common values that develop. Because, you walk in and you start talking about contemporary issues, you can present them from left side, right side, middle side, or whatever, and next person walks in and presents it from totally different aspect. And it creates more confusion than understanding. When you come and explore commonality between Judeo-Christian values, Judeo-Christian roots, how we all came together from one Mother Earth to flourish as a tree, then I think it creates more understanding, tighter relations, more maybe even stronger relations among people. So that's kind of my interest in that, to present Jewish history as much as I can.
Go ahead. I think this is a good time to do this because you already gave half the spiel for our shared roots class that we do. So just talk a little bit about that, because it was you that started that. You were the one that approached me. But give us some more. What's shared roots? Why did you want to do it? And what does that collaboration look like?
As I said, the reason I wanted to do it is that in my mind, as we understand that we coming from common traditional religious aspects that culminated in values that we all aspire, that we all share, it's a much better way of building relationships. And when I have attended and heard a couple of lectures that you, Jeremy, or maybe not lecture, events that you put together, I thought maybe that idea of unity of the roots would resonate well with the Christian community in Denver, and certainly with Jewish community. Because Jewish community is in a way stops learning history post-biblical era. Once Christianity develops, we don't know anything about that. Once Second Temple is destroyed, we have no history after that. We just talk about diaspora, persecutions every 300, 400, 500 years, but there is no history of how it all developed. And there's a deep, great history how the church developed, sprout from the Judaism, how they separated, how they merge in many ways, how they positively or negatively interacted through the years. Most of the people in the Jewish community have no idea what it is. And obviously, most people in Christian community know history of Christian church and Christian development, but they don't know how Jewish life influenced that at every step. And so, being a student of Jewish history, being a promoter of Jewish history, being a person who is interested in history and intellectual development of those two communities, I thought maybe if we put it together, it will attract traction among people. And I know there are a bunch of churches that support Israel, but there are as many that do not. And if we can take it to those who do not, after we educate people who do, that would be great. And I thought I got a great feedback from Jewish community, because once we start talking how Christianity developed, they have no clue. They really don't have any idea how it ought.
I think that's been one of the most brilliant things about these classes that we're doing is I got Jewish people and Christian people coming up to me in the end going, that was amazing. I didn't know that information. They're loving hearing from you as a Jewish historian and hearing your take. They think you're wonderful. They think you're eloquent and charming and all of those wonderful things. And then the Jewish community coming up to me saying, I really loved listening to that Anglican priest that talk about Christianity. And you're going, what in the world is happening here? So that's a great introduction. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about that, but I'm glad you shared that. Let's go with Miri. Miri, just give us a little introduction with yourself and Stand With Us.
Absolutely. So thank you for that intro. My name is Miri Kornfeld. I'm the director of Stand With Us here in Colorado. And Stand With Us is an international nonprofit. We are focused on fighting anti-Semitism and educating about Israel all around the world. We were founded in 2001. It was the height of the second Intifada, which was a time where there were lots of suicide bombings and terror attacks in Israel. And our co-founders, Roz Rothstein and Jerry Rothstein, Roz and Jerry Rothstein and Esther Renzer, they left their day jobs and they started Stand With Us. And it has unfortunately grown into a large international organization. I say unfortunate because there's a need with the rise in anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. And that's what we do everywhere around the world today.
Excellent. I love that you do it. Eldad, talk about yourself.
Yeah, so Eldad, and I grew up in Israel and I moved to the United States a while ago. And when I got connected to the IAC, I'm the director of the IAC. When I got connected to the IAC, I saw it opened up a new world for me as far as the Jewish and the Israeli American communities over here. And within our organization, our focus is on the Israeli community, mostly. And now, and that's how it relates, I think, to all what we do over here, is we've been focusing on the Israeli community and how we build that community and make it stronger. But we understand that we don't live in a vacuum and that we do need to reach out and we do need to be in touch with other communities, whether it's within the Jewish community or outside of the Jewish community. And that's how I got to know you and
you do a wonderful job. We talk regularly, but both of you guys, I mean, I've interacted with you as much as anybody over the last 2 years. Which kind of leads me into the next question, because I think for us, for our organization, maybe where it all really started was at the event that we did shortly after October 7th in 2023. I guess for our viewers, for our audience, maybe this is an interesting piece of the history of stories of anti-Semitism. But it was actually a local rabbi that we all know, Rabbi Mintz, that called me up and said, if there's ever a time for your Christian organization to get Jews and Christians together, it's right now. And I said, well, I've never done one of those. And he said, well, figure it out and let's do it in a couple of weeks. And we did. And about 300 people showed up, which was amazing. And I guess I had technically met you before.
That's right.
And you spoke at that event.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget getting to the end of that event. And there was just this line of Jewish people that wanted to talk to me because apparently, and I had no idea, that that gesture or that event would make so many Jewish people say, how do we work together more? I wasn't prepared for that, honestly. And so maybe just talk a little bit, go a little bit deeper, take us a little bit deeper, but talk about what is it about a Christian advocacy group like Stories of Anti-Semitism that makes you say, man, I want to work with him. We've got to collaborate. We've got to partner. We've got to do things together. Why are you drawn to an organization like ours?
Well, I think that event, that event didn't happen in a vacuum. I don't even know if we were a month out from October 7th when that event happened in 2023. The Jewish community of the world was bleeding at that point in time. We were, and are still, in a highly emotional state. Our community in Israel, our brothers and sisters in Israel, were just attacked in the most horrific way possible, in the worst way possible since the Holocaust. This is not something that has happened in a very long time to our community. And so you and I had met originally down in Colorado Springs, which was probably a week and a half after October 7th.
Short enough.
And the community had put together a rally down there in order to support Israel. It was when the world was still kind of in support of Israel after October 7th. The tide shifted a little bit afterwards. And that's when I met you for the first time. But this particular event that you're mentioning, it awakens some sort of, the entire world isn't against us feeling. There's an unfortunate reality and pattern in Jewish history where things happen to the Jewish community. It's part of our history. It's part of our community. It's the reason why we have so many Jewish holidays. And oftentimes it's very easy to feel like the entire world is against us. And then when this beacon of light is truly the only way to describe it, where your Christian supporters, your Christian cousins, people come up to you and say, "Hi, we stand with you also," especially at that point in time, but just in general, is such a uplifting feeling to know that we are not alone. And that's what you call the event, is something you're not alone.
We won't be silent.
We won't be silent,
Right.
Something along those lines. So knowing that there are people outside of our community that we don't have to stand for ourselves fully by ourselves, it's a breath of fresh air.
To me, I think when I just moved, I haven't been to that event because I was still in Israel and I moved back to Israel on that. That's
so many
One of your coworkers were at that event. I remember I didn't even get 10 miles outside of Denver, and Alon is calling me going, I got to talk to you, So, and then, which was just, again, it was so surprising to me. It's just a guy leading a very small organization, very small effort. I'm going, that was the biggest thing we've ever done, to have 300 people there. And then Alon's calling me, within
and
less than an
he
hour.
reached out because he identified something that is still very important. It's to not be alone in whatever fight it is. And I know that when I moved back from Israel and I got back into this role with the IAC, it was a way to really talk outside of our echo chamber and to get that support that we get from outside. And sometimes even within the Israeli community, just hearing, if, for example, the flags that Father Phil placed on the church.
So you referenced it. So just unpack that just a little bit. We've got a mutual friend named Father Phil, Anglican priest in South Denver. And what did he do?
So he last year, as a sign of solidarity and standing with Israel, he got 1,200 flags for the 1,200 people that were murdered on that day. And he placed those flags outside on the lawn of the church. And for me, that gesture, it's not just, all right, we're standing with you. It is putting it out there. And it is visible and it's clear. And I am standing with Israel at this moment. And this is who I am. And to me, doing something like that, so visible, it is heartwarming and makes me feel we're not alone in this.
Yeah. Well, you both brought this up, the feeling of basically being alone in a time of horrible rising anti-Semitism, hatred against Israel. And historically, you are alone. typically. But then the other thing that strikes me, when you talk about what Father Phil did, was it was so visible.
Yeah.
Right. And he talks about this too. People drive by and turn around and come down to
Yeah.
his church and say, "Who are you people? I'm Jewish, by the way, and I'm your neighbor. And what you've done touches me so deeply." And I think that's your neighborhood. Is that right, Boris?
Yeah.
That was you live near here. So talk a little bit about that.
Let me go back a little bit to what Miri said, and what the organization of Stand With Us means to me in a way.
Are you saying Stand With Us or Stories of Anti-Semitism?
No, Stand With
Okay,
Us.
good.
Wait a second. Because what she said was so right, but on the other hand, not on the other hand, but in addition to it, I guess, who is going to stand with us? Who are the people that's standing with us?
Yeah.
There are obviously some people from Jewish community who've never been involved in anything. They waking up, they should stand up, they support Israel. But there are some people, even in Jewish community, they standing with us during that October 7 terrible things. But other than that, they're not really standing with Israel. They have their own ideas of what Jewishness and Israeli means. I think for Jewish community in Israel and in diaspora and in the United States and in Europe to survive next 200 years, 300 years when we will be long gone of that, is to build relationship with Christian community. Because otherwise we will be swallowed by other forces one by one. So it's the only way for us to survive is to stand with us, meaning get Christian community to stand with us. And with that, there are plenty of people like Miri and other organizations and Fight Anti-Semitism and all of that. They're working with people on contemporary issue. I don't have those skills of that. My kind of academic skills are different. I can teach why you have to stand with us. Why we're cousins in a way. We're cousins within the Jewish community with Bukharan Jews, Yemenite Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, or whatever. But we're also cousin, maybe a second cousin, I don't know, with the Christian community that want. And I want them to understand and buy into that we are together. Because that, I view that as a long run surviving skills for, and not only skills, but way. What they say, what's the new way, what's the way? It's for us to be together.
Yeah. Okay. So.
And now back to the Anglican church in my neighborhood.
Right.
No, yeah.
There was a phenomenal sight with all the Israeli flags, and that's absolutely true. I love Father Phil since that time, and walked into his church at least a couple of times for events and for lecturing, and bringing all my friends for those lecturing there to listen. I think he's doing phenomenal things. That's what we should be together.
He really is. You guys all kind of bring up an interesting point. You really shed light on it, Boris. But Christians, sort of, because of religious reasons, it's not that we don't love you just because you're human beings, but there's also religious convictions that undergird all of that. So you talk about us being cousins, right? So I think on one hand, you've got Christian groups who are saying, yeah, we've got strong conviction to do this. And I'm not trying to make comparisons here, but are we seeing anybody else besides the Christian community who's really coming out and making a strong stand? And who are they and what's their motivation?
We work, at Stand With Us, as I mentioned, we have offices and we work all around the world. A community that Stand With Us has been working very closely with for many years now is actually the Hindu community.
Okay.
And bringing community members together in Chicago. Actually, we have very large events with the Hindu community around different Jewish holidays and Hindu holidays and whatnot, in order to talk about the similarities, and then also just to celebrate each other and to say like, hey, we're neighbors kind of thing in Chicago or anywhere with these events. I mean, we did one in San Diego, I believe. We did one in Pittsburgh. I'm forgetting all the places where we've done these types of events, but it goes on to, community building and also relationship making and coalition building. And so, and it goes both ways, by the way. I mean, it's very easy as a Jewish person to stay insular in my community and to be with, those who are in my community. And I understand that, from you, the conversations that we've had, it's very easy for the Christian community as well to say, oh yeah, I'm going to stay with her. I support Israel, but, all my friends are Christian, and it's the same thing with us as well. So it's about taking that one step outside of your comfort zone and really reaching out on a human level to say, hey, I stand with you.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. So you said the Hindu community, Christian community, anybody else that we're seeing that's coming out saying, we stand with Israel, we stand with the Jewish people?
I'm sure there's some secular people who feel need to speak up against atrocities, against terrible things that happen. I thought, and I forgot the name, there was a Muslim guy on TV several times who was kind of against many Muslims' ideas of bringing it into more common way of moralities of general humanity, whatever. I not too many of those, but they are, I guess.
Yeah. I don't think as a group that I've encountered that. I know that when I reached out to specific groups, then they said yes. So I did an event with Iranians, and all of a sudden they've been supportive and show that, but not on a bigger scale. And it's not they're approaching us. And I think that the role of stories of anti-Semitism, it's one of very big importance of taking whatever is happening for us and to us and spreading it outside of our immediate connections. Because when I had a flag stolen, or Israeli flag stolen off my car, and I posted it on Facebook, then all my Jewish Israeli friends would see it. But now that you're in that loop, all of a sudden that can go further. And I think that's one of the biggest advantages of having you and Stories of Anti-Semitism involved in that.
Yeah, that's good.
It's creating an avenue for that intersection of commonalities, of humanity, of bringing people together, because it's very hard, right? It's not just Christian and Jewish, it's in general, making new friends, going into new environments, talking to someone in the supermarket. I mean, it can be hard to kind of bridge that gap, but when we have organizations like Stories of Anti-Semitism where you are doing the reaching out, or we are doing the reaching out, it's creating that bridge, right? Whether it be actually a physical, event to bring people together, or that emotional feeling of connection to allow people to have the resources and the avenues which they can reach out.
Yeah, that's great. We have a photo of a bridge on the front of our website.
Yeah, that's right.
That's deeply meaningful to us, that we would be a bridge for Christians and Jews to come and make relationships and build trust and be able to collaborate together. And that kind of brings me into the next question, which is, let's talk about what we've collaborated on and why did that work? What things are easy and high priority to collaborate on right now? So anybody can go first.
I'd say you came in for last, and that also relates to other communities. We had a memorial for the Holocaust, and you came in to talk over there at the 6 Million Steps at Bavial Park, which was very interesting.
And I just have to say this, that was scary. You invite your Christian friend to come speak to Jewish people on a very sober, and I might even say sacred day, when we're remembering the Holocaust. I was very nervous.
Well,
Very nervous, because I didn't want to mess it up.
I don't think you can.
and you did a great job on this one, because to me, you say it's a sacred day. Yes, it is a sacred day. it is not just a Jewish day. On that time of dark time in the Jewish history, there were those stories of anti-Semitism, those people who actually stepped up,
Yeah.
those people that reached out to the Jewish community and helped them. And totally different. It is not it's not the same, but what you're doing right now is, I think in some way equivalent to reaching out and putting someone in your house to hide him from whatever is happening. And that is what is so heartwarming about it, because nobody's outside right now trying to barge in and to take me as a Jew, but the fact that you are standing up, you and Father Phil and others, and say, we are standing with the Jewish community and we're here for you, that is unique. And I think that was beautiful that you came over there. And I think the meaning of your presence in the event to the Jewish audience was, all right, we're not alone. And that is unique. And on that note, we also had people from the Ukrainian community coming in, just a few of them. And we started to build some kind of a relationship over there. So that speaks to having more people around to support each other, not only when I need help, but also when you need something, build those connections. So I think that was one thing that really stand up.
That's good. You mentioned, and you mentioned this many times, hey, we'll stand with you when you need it, which in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know, like maybe we'll need that at some point, but it does drive that idea that we will stand together in the future because of things that we're doing right now, so proactive. That's how I think of our work. It's not World War II level anti-Semitism, and we don't have to hide our Jewish friends. But I remember what Noah Tishby said at a Stand With Us conference. She said, we're not looking for you to hide us. We're looking for you to come out and stand with us. Yeah. That's the role of Stories of Anti-Semitism right now, to come out and stand with. Let's prevent that level of anti-Semitism from happening before it does, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
There have been so many events that we've collaborated on. I probably couldn't even name all of them if I tried, but my general rule of thumb is when Jeremy picks up the phone and calls me and say, hey, I got an idea, I go, yes, before he even tells me what the idea is.
Very true. Yalla,
let's do it, right? That's me. I say yalla. But I think it's this two-way street, right? It's something that I've been saying a bunch so far, is, when you call me and say, hey, I need you to come and speak, or hey, I need you to come and bring the Jewish community. And then the same goes for you. I remember when I brought the very first survivors of the Nova massacre and other survivors of October 7th that came to Colorado. Thank God we've had many speakers come to town to share their stories and whatnot, but this was the very first time it had happened in Colorado. I called you up. I said, Jeremy, we've got some university events. We've got some political events. There's a bunch of different events. I want them to speak to some Christian audiences. What do you got for me? And we organized that event at Father Phil's church. Thank you, Father Phil, if you're watching this, for the Christian community to come and hear these stories and to bear witness to what happened on October 7th. And I remember after that, you hear the stories of what happened on October 7th. You might have watched the news, you might see some pictures, but to hear the personal stories of someone who, actually was in this shelter that we were talking about before we started recording. He was in this physical shelter where many of the hostages that were kidnapped into Gaza were taken from the shelter in southern Israel from the Nova festival. And another woman who was based up north and was anticipating what was going to happen on Israel's northern border after October 7th, and to bear witness to those stories. It was just inspiring to hear the outpouring of love afterwards. And I think my takeaway from that event and every other event that we've collaborated on is the Christian community wants to show up. Mm-hmm. They just want to know how. Right. They might not necessarily know how to do that showing up. And by the way, it feels the same way as, the Jewish community wants to show up. We just need to know how. So if we continue to, as we said, build those bridges, it will only lead to good things.
Yeah, that's good. I think I commonly find in most churches, you have people who are saying, we see that this matters, but somebody's got to lead us in it. Can you comment? Your average pastor in America is not saying we have an Israel program or a Jewish, standing against anti-Semitism kind of a program. They don't, so they're looking for someone to take the lead and initiate something and start making the invitations and say we're hosting the event, because most churches just aren't going to think to do that.
And I actually think that this is a fantastic place for a story of anti-Semitism, of opening those doors, finding those venues and avenues how to connect. It's way too important. I don't think most of other organizations on themselves could find relations to a church in Arvada or North Glen, but you can. And you can also bring, if we call on you to bring Christian community to events of either a synagogue or outside, that would be, I think, the greatest role that story of anti-Semitism can play. It's building on a bridge, but it's beyond the bridge. It's go and opening those doors. And now, I understand you have to have an event that will help you open that door. So it's either Miri's event or Eldad event or my sort of learning of common roots and whatever it is. You take it as a hot potato and bring it to whatever church you want. Because I don't know people in communities of churches to open those doors. You can, and I think that's, or at least that I view it as a tremendous help.
Well, but even in the way that you and I have collaborated, I'm thinking back to when we started, it was you, and then it was Amir, and then it was Herzl, and kind of all of you converged on me at once in about a 2-week period. We're saying we should do a class about Israel and the shared roots of Christians and Jews. And I went, well, 2 or more witnesses, isn't that what it said in the Bible? So, I have 3 people, and we pulled it together. But we're sitting in a church right now that hosted one of those classes, and the last one.
Yes.
Yeah, I've watched it every one of our classes. It's about 50-50, and we've got 80 to 90 people in the room. That's a good. I thought we'd have 20 to 30, honestly. So the fact that we've got 80 to 90, and we're talking 40 Jewish people, 40 Christians, and they're listening to a Jewish presenter talk about Jewish history and a Christian presenter talk about Christian history. That I just marvel at that.
Yeah, and a lot of people actually ask me for recordings, and I send it to a bunch of friends, who did not attend, but they look at home, and they like it so far. So hopefully it's
well. And on that note, I remember what I was going to say a minute ago now, which is, it's you. And it's you. Well, it's you and Herzl, but you invite all your friends, and it's all your friends that are showing up to this thing from the Jewish community, and I'm inviting my friends, But it takes our Jewish friends inviting the Jewish community, obviously, and the Christian leaders inviting the Christian community, and then we fill up a room to have.
But again, you open the venue. You found Father Phil where we can do it. You found Father Walker, who was very supportive, who speaks actually great Hebrew, by the way. Teases me with his knowledge all the time. And that's important. We can bring maybe 20, 40, 50% of people in the audience, but I need to know to which church to go, which door will open.
Right.
There are people interested in all that stuff. And kind of caveat to that most of these people are older people. There are very few younger people show up. They're busy with their families, with whatever they might be busy with. Yeah, making money, still working, but all the older guys are sitting there and listening. They are interested.
Yeah. Well, and with our campus work, when we go to campuses, it's where all the young people are, and we have young people coming together. But, I think you're bringing up the fact that, we need networks, but we get networks coming together because of the networkers, because of the leaders. And so we've got Father Phil, we've got Father Walker, we've got you, we've got Herzl, we've got these guys who are saying, okay, we have connections, we're bringing our connections, and everybody says we're bringing our connections, and we're going to send well, I feel like I send 100 emails a month to get people to come to these things. But that feels to me like that's what makes it all work is we have leaders who take the initiative, who get out and do the networking and connecting the churches and the synagogues and the rabbis and those that aren't religious. Doesn't matter. We're working with everyone to get them all together, which is hard work, exhausting work. You know, the amount of time I know that you guys spend networking. I don't know if you think that's a bad word or not. Sometimes it annoys me.
Fun.
But it can be fun when you're an extrovert like yourself. It can be
I
tiring.
think that I'm hearing over and over kind of a theme that I'm hearing with regards to the events that you guys are hosting is everything at the end you are more than pleasantly surprised at how successful it was. And to me, that shows the need
Right.
for stories of anti-Semitism plus. You know, it's that you saw a void, you saw a niche that wasn't being filled, you saw a void, and you wanted to be able to fill that. And we're seeing how successful it is here in Colorado specifically. But I know that you guys are also doing work outside of Colorado. And I just want to, I don't know if now is the proper time to say it, but to thank you guys for finding that void and filling it, and not just filling it, but filling it plus. And I would argue that there should be more of what you guys are doing. And if we have any viewers who are, you know, outside of the state of Colorado or want to learn what that special sauce is, you know, give Jeremy a call. He figured it out. And we're here with you in Colorado and all over the world.
I like it. That's wonderful. I want to turn things just a little bit, staying in the same vein of collaboration now. You know, I think I remember after doing the second We Won't Be Silent event, I think you said it, and there was another lady from another organization that said it, but she said, these are great because these are feel good. But what's the next step? Right? And on one hand, you know, stories of anti-Semitism, I wouldn't say it's in my skill set to be really good at like going to the city council meetings or to the Capitol and advocating, getting involved in government. So sometimes I think, well, are we really that good of allies or advocates if we're not out in the government or the political arena and advocating? So talk a little bit about that, because that's a need, right? That's a need right now. At the same time, I don't hear any of you saying, we wish you guys would do this more or do this better. But what does that look like when we're kind of trying to bring allies out, Christians out? Are you looking for the government leaders and the politicians and those that are involved in that?
There's always more work to do. I mean, what is it? You don't have to start it, but you can't. What is like the phrase? But you can't shy away from it. You didn't. Anyways, it's a Hebrew phrase, proverb, something along those lines. I'm not sure. But there's always more work to do.
Yeah.
Do we need more supporters in the government? Absolutely. Do we need more people to be lobbying their elected officials? Absolutely. We have issues, I'm sure many of you have heard, up in the Boulder City Council right now. There's rabid anti-Semitism happening up in Boulder, but that's not just centralized to Boulder. It's the rest of the state as well, the rest of the country, the rest of the world. So it's finding where you feel like you can make the most influence with the connections that you have, with the resources that you have, with the talents that you have, in order to shift the tide wherever that might be. And if you're looking to learn more about how you can use those talents, resources, connections, whatnot, in the best way possible, you know, reach out to Stories of Antisemitism, reach out to Eldad, reach out to myself. There are ways that people can get more involved, but absolutely on the government level, for sure, 100%.
But I don't hear anyone saying, wow, I wish you guys were more political, or I wish you guys were more involved in government.
I think the role that Stories of Antisemitism is playing and that we're playing is creating the space you're talking about. Well, give me a venue and I'll do an event over there. It's creating the space, and it's not just about the content that we can give. It's creating a space for people to be together and build those relationships. Because if there are more relationships I was sitting in the church and there was next to me someone with kids, with my age kids, and we did just one more thing together. When it comes to the political aspect or to the advocacy, I don't know, maybe next time that person that is sitting with me and now has this personal connection to this Jewish Israeli guy, maybe he is actually involved in and will do something to support. But the basic is for us to be together and to interact to create more spaces. Again, it's not about the content. We're doing the Sukkah of Solidarity where Father Phil is going to plant those flags again. That's a great gesture. It's going to be amazing to see the flags. It's going to be amazing to take the wall we're going to take right over there and pass it from sukkah to sukkah, to show people that unity. All of that is great.
So real quick,
Yeah.
you're talking
Yeah.
about the Sukkah of Solidarity. So for our visitors, for our viewers, I mean, just describe what it is that we're going to do.
So we talked in the past to do something together, and Father Phil said he's going to plant the flags on
Father Phil
October
again.
6th. Again, he's always with us.
He is number one.
Abba Phil.
Above
Yes.
this.
So he said he's going to do on October 6th the planting the flags, 1,200 flags again, and it coincides with Sukkot. And Sukkot is a holiday about bringing people together. So we played around with the idea, and eventually we came up with the idea of creating a wall over there to decorate on the church's ground, and then to take that wall and to pass it along between different Sukkot around the city.
What's so novel is we're celebrating Sukkot at a church with Christians and Jews.
And
Right.
it was the last holiday that happened fully
Right.
before October 7th happened.
Right.
October 7th was on Simchat Torah, where the Jewish people celebrate the Torah, and that's right as Sukkot ends. So Sukkot was the last happy time
Yeah.
in the Jewish community. I'm playing Hebrew music for my kids right now, depending on what holiday we're coming up. I have 4-year-old twin boys, and right now the song I'm playing them the songs for Sukkot to get ready for Sukkot. And there was a concert that happened in Israel. I believe it was on October 6th. Who was the singer? Was it Lenny Kravitz, or there was some performer who was in Israel, and he had a concert on October 6th at night. And he played a classic Jewish song that Jewish, that every Israeli kid grew up on. It's called Shlomit Bona Sukkah. You ask every Israeli in Israel, Jewish or not, and they know this song. It's about this woman named Shlomit who built a sukkah, whatever. It's a children's song. And so I hear that song now every single year, and I'm like, that was played on October 6th in Israel at a huge concert on Hayarkon Park in the center of Tel Aviv, where thousands of Israelis were dancing and celebrating, and we didn't know what was going to happen a couple hours later. So all of a sudden, so the fact that you're doing it on Sukkot, this event, it's very spiritual on some level as well.
And to do it with the Christian community.
With the
Right.
Christian community,
Yeah. Well, and it's it's not a huge thing, It's not like, gosh, we got to get 1,000 people together and have all these. It's community,
But it
which I heard
speaks-
come from your mouth. I think from all of your mouths, especially in the last year. How do we make community around all of this?
And
right?
that's the point, is we create those events, whether it's the sessions to learn about the history, whether it's rallies, whether it's the sukkah. That is not the main issue. The main thing that happens out of those things is people are together in the same space in the same time. And then the magic happens. And I think that when you are asking about the political aspect, or we don't hear the need for that, yes, it is needed. I think it is the next step. What you're creating right now is that infrastructure of wider and more mixed community it's not as strong as, let's say, the Jewish community or the Christian community or whatever church's community, that they have a lot more in common and more points of contact. But the more we create those points of contact, we weave that network of a stronger community.
Right.
And that, in turn, will serve the higher purpose.
Yeah. Well, after our classes or after some of our events, we see Christians and Jewish people, they're exchanging numbers and they're getting coffees together. And I think that's actually really good for
That's exactly the purpose.
No,
100%.
that exactly. And I would personally stay away from politics as possible, as far as possible. Because I think, for example, I don't know, maybe it's not a good example, but to me it is. the success of AIPAC is that they're trying to stay outside of politics and support people with one goal in mind, support of Israel. Here, we want to get Christian and Jews together, regardless what their political affiliation is,
Right.
what
Yeah.
their thoughts about something else. I would never vote with some of them or whatever, but it doesn't matter. I want to bring them to
We've talked about it in other podcasts and how Zionism is not a political movement, right? The
Yes.
fact that you have to put the word political in front of Zionism in order to talk about political Zionism shows how Zionism is not political.
Right.
So
That's a good
it's,
point.
you know, it's a commonality. It's a human
Yeah.
thing to connect on.
And I mean, the four of us have worked together a ton in the last 2 years, and we're not even trying to dodge politics. It's not necessary to do what we're going to do. And maybe that brings us into to the last question here. But obviously, you get Christians and Jews in a room, you get Christians and Jews connecting together, you've got different values, you've got different worldviews, you've got different religious perspectives here. And I think some of those things they're the obstacles, obviously. Those are some of the elephants in the room when you bring people that differ on things together, just period, right? So let's talk about that with the last few minutes that we have. What are some of those obstacles, and how do we deal with them? And I find probably in the last month or two, I'm finding more and more of my Jewish friends saying, hold on, help me understand this a little bit better. Help me understand you, help me understand Christianity, help me understand your values. So that's happening a lot right now, but let's talk about that.
So in typical Jewish fashion, I'm going to turn the question back at you as I can.
Sure.
One of the questions that bothers me the most when I'm dealing with the Jewish community, or those who might not know, is, why are you working so hard with the Christian community? Why? We have enough issues on our own. We don't. Plus, they have ulterior motives,
Right.
whatever. So, and I obviously can answer it, but I'd love for your viewers and for our Jewish brothers and sisters as well to kind of hear from the person sitting in the room, the Christians, the horse's mouth here. Why do Christians care so much about Jews, and what does Zionism have to do with it? And what is that ulterior motive that people are talking about, which is not actually an ulterior motive?
Yeah, I think I can definitely speak for us and all of our partnering churches that we work with. And the fact is, Stories of Anti-Semitism is an organization that's meant to build bridges and relationships and fight anti-Semitism. We're not a missions organization or an evangelistic organization, and that's just not our purpose. The way that I've communicated that with churches and with people in the Jewish community is like, our love is no strings attached, right? Because of the history of Christian-Jewish relations is, Christian A comes along and says, hey, Jewish person, you need to convert to Christianity and believe in Jesus. And then when the Jewish person says, that's not for me, the Christian person says, great, then I don't like you very much anymore. Of course, this is kind of a caricature. But that's been the history, right? Over and over again. And why would we do that to our Jewish friends at a time like this, right?
Or ever.
Yeah. Period. I think that what's amazing about Shared Griefs class.
This is exactly answer to you. That's why I came to Jeremy, and he found a couple of people from Christian community who can historically speak for that. How do we overcome those obstacles? Because there are quite a few, and some of them are very, very significant. But it's only by understanding how we came together with the same root from the same place, and how we separated and how we re-merge, that we can overcome those obstacles. Otherwise, it's impossible. If somebody tells you something terribly against Jewish faith or against Christian faith, it's very hard to argue unless you present how we grew up together.
So just to kind of make it abundantly clear to all of our listeners here, if you show up to a Stories of Anti-Semitism event that's co-sponsored with Jewish organizations or not, are you going to be proselytized too? Are you going to be, whatever? I know the answer, but
Proselytizing. That's not what we do. I can't help the fact that that's a part of the Christian religion. And I have frank conversations with with pastors and Christians all the time about this. But my response is, look, our love has to have no strings attached to it, right? So if our Jewish community says, thank you for sharing your faith with me, but no thank you, then the Christian friend, just back off and respect our Jewish friends' wishes for that. And I know that probably from some of our events, we've had Christians that have probably shared some of their faith convictions with their Jewish friends. And I don't know, nobody's ever come back at me with a complaint. So I think the conversations went okay. But to go back to our last shared roots class, one of the Jewish leaders in the room came up to me at the end and he said, we were on some very thin ice there, but it held, because we had a Christian pastor just being very frank about what Christians believe. And I was feeling that stress, thinking I might have a mess to clean up after this, But in the end, I think we were all there to learn. We were all there to listen and be respectful of one another. That's been the tone in every one of our classes, and we're learning new things. And so it seems that the bridge that we're building is strong enough. It's built, there's enough trust built into that bridge
100%.
that maybe now those more frank conversations can support the weight of some of the difficult conversations like we're having in our class.
I'm just grateful that at every event that we have, it truly is 100% about standing together, talking about Israel, talking about support, and none of the whatever.
And shared roots is a little bit different from some of our other, what I've done with Boris is a little bit different from what we've done with you guys. And so things are getting a little bit more frank in that class in terms of faith and religion. And
Yeah, when I explain people that very first Christians were all Jews, all without exception, and people are aghast, both on the Jewish side and in the Christian side, because they have no idea. Nobody teaches that. Nobody talks in Jewish community about this. We are on the guard that somebody wants to pull us into another religion without understanding how it all happens and opening our eyes as much as opening Christian eyes.
Just about the obstacles. The obstacles, I think, come in mostly from the most orthodox sides of both.
sure,
It's from very small groups that really hold on to their beliefs and might be a little bit fearful of changing something. I think that as a whole, I don't encounter a lot of obstacles as far as bringing people together. I think that the basic reaction for someone who I'm going to invite to Sukkot or to whatever would be, oh my God, that's amazing.
right.
That would be from the bigger population. If we have obstacles, they come from very smaller groups.
I would argue that the one of the biggest obstacles also is just not knowing, right? We talked about this in another podcast that we had talked about together is, we're 2 years out from October 7th, and maybe there's some Christian people out there who have said, I haven't yet reached out to my Jewish friends, and it might be a little awkward at this point in time. I haven't reached out. They might think I don't care about that. There's no wrong time to reach out. If you have not yet reached out to any Jewish friends, colleagues, former coworkers, college roommates, friends, brothers, sisters, cousins, dogs, aunts, uncle, whatever it is who is Jewish and checked in and say, are you okay? There's no wrong time. I'm telling you, the Jewish community of the world is still very much hurt and hurting.
Yes.
We are not in post-trauma yet. We are still very much so in trauma, and we will be until all of our hostages come home. And I think that now, if you're hearing this now is the time. Reach out and do something a little bit outside of your comfort zone,
Right.
and make a difference for that one Jewish person in your life. It's gonna mean the world to them.
Yes, I think that's the great call to action to end on. I feel like that's how we ended the last time.
Yeah.
But it's so true. Right? Like there's just the small things, just being good neighbors, being good humans, being good friends to our Jewish neighbors means the world. And so that's what we want our Christian listeners to realize is that if you're thinking, I maybe want to do something, but I don't know what to do, just do something. As little and silly as it might seem.
Send a text message.
Right? Send a text message, yes. So with that, we'll end this episode of Amplify, Stories of Antisemitism. We're so thankful for all of our listeners, and after you watch this podcast, make sure to share it with others in your circles because we'd like to spread the message and spread the word. Thanks.